3 World Cups, 4 decades, 1 hand of God, 1 6-0 victory, 1 water bottle, and questions that football still can't answer. There are football nations that are respected. There are football nations that are feared. And then there is Argentina. 3 World Cups, some of the greatest players in football history, millions of the most passionate fans on earth. But unlike almost every other champion, Argentina's greatest triumphs have never escaped controversy. For decades, questions have followed their biggest victories. Questions about politics, questions about fairness, questions that still divide football today. This is not a story about proving conspiracy theories. It is a story about understanding why. Decades later, the debate never disappeared.
Entrega para Messi, Messi otra vez para Ecuador, Jiménez para Messi, atención, viene el remate de Messi, pelota queda en el cuerpo de Segovia, Atino otra vez el 10 que ya jugó rápido para Ecuador, Jiménez viene toque para Messi, ¡gol!
Argentina has always lived football differently. In few countries does the game carry so much emotion, so much identity, so much history. World Cups are not simply tournaments in Argentina. They become part of who they are. By the late 1970s, Argentina had never won the World Cup. Then came 1978, a tournament that would forever change the country's football history, and perhaps its reputation. Argentina hosted the 1978 World Cup while the country was under military rule. General Jorge Rafael Videla had seized power in a coup 2 years earlier. His regime was responsible for the deaths of between 15,000 and 30,000 of its own citizens during what became known as the Dirty War. And 5 minutes' walk from the monumental stadium in Buenos Aires was a military detention center where 5,000 prisoners were held. On the nights Argentina played, those prisoners could hear the roars of the crowd through the walls. For Videla's junta, winning the World Cup was not just about football. It was about projecting power, about showing the world that Argentina was stable, strong, and in control. Argentina reached the second group stage knowing exactly what they needed. Brazil had already played their final game. They had beaten Poland 3-1. Argentina knew the number. They needed to beat Peru by at least 4 goals. What happened next remains one of the most debated matches in World Cup history. The night before the game, without warning, the security guards protecting the Peruvian team hotel disappeared. Argentine fans surrounded the building, blasting car horns and chanting through the night. The bus taking Peru to the stadium the next day got lost multiple times on a journey that should have taken 30 minutes. It took over 2 hours. And then, just before kickoff, General Videla entered the Peruvian dressing room. Alongside him was Henry Kissinger, the United States Secretary of State. Videla read a message from Peru's own military dictator, Francisco Morales Bermudez. Former Peruvian players who were present later said they interpreted the visit as a threat. Then the game began. Argentina won 6-0, enough to reach the final, enough to win the World Cup. In the period surrounding the match, the Argentine government shipped 35,000 tons of grain to Peru. 10 days after the final, the Argentine Central Bank granted Peru an extraordinary non-refundable credit, a transaction confirmed publicly by Argentina's own Treasury Secretary. The goalkeeper of the Peruvian team that night was Ramon Quiroga, born in Argentina. No official investigation has ever proven that the match was fixed. Players on both sides have denied it. But decades later, 2 former Peruvian players said publicly that Videla and Kissinger had entered their dressing room and delivered a message they understood as a threat. Argentina went on to beat the Netherlands in the final. 3-1, their first World Cup. The questions never went away. But history wasn't finished with Argentina. In fact, it was only beginning. Eight years later, Argentina returned, this time led by Diego Maradona, perhaps the most gifted footballer the sport has ever seen. The 1986 World Cup transformed Maradona into a legend, but even his greatest tournament produced football's most famous controversy. Against England, in the quarterfinal, Maradona rose to meet a cross and punched the ball into the net with his left hand. The referee allowed the goal. Maradona told the press it had been scored. A little with the head of Maradona, and a little with the hand of God. That line became immortal. Then, 4 minutes later, Maradona picked up the ball in his own half and dribbled past 5 English players before slotting it past the goalkeeper. The same match, the same player, the hand of God. And then, what many still call the greatest goal ever scored in a World Cup. 2 moments that perfectly captured why football has never been able to simply agree on Maradona. A genius, a competitor, and forever, a complicated icon. 4 years later, Italy, 1990. Argentina and Brazil met in the round of 16 in Turin. Brazil had topped their group, winning every single game. Argentina had struggled to escape the group stage, finishing behind Cameroon and Romania. On paper, Brazil were the better team, and for the first half, they played like it. Brazilian defender Branco was outstanding, personally keeping Maradona quiet. Then, during a pause in play, a member of the Argentine bench handed Branco a water bottle. He drank from it. In the second half, Branco later said his legs felt heavy, that he felt dizzy, that he asked to be substituted at halftime, but his coach refused. Then Maradona, carrying a serious ankle injury that required painkillers just for him to play, produced a brilliant pass that sent Claudio Caniggia through to score. Argentina won 1-0. Days later, Branco told journalists he believed he had been drugged, that the water had been spiked. The story was largely ignored at the time. Then, 14 years later, Maradona claimed on Argentine television that the bottle given to Branco had been laced with tranquilizers. Argentine defender Oscar Ruggeri had allegedly told Branco at an airport years after the match, "That was a good trick we pulled on you back in Italy, wasn't it?" Argentina's coach at the time, Carlos Bilardo, when asked about it years later, gave a carefully guarded answer. "I don't know, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I can't say for certain that it didn't." No official ruling ever changed the result. Whether it happened exactly as Branco believed or not, one thing is certain: the story never disappeared. Most famous expressions of raw emotion in World Cup history. He was removed from the tournament after testing positive for a banned substance. The image of Maradona leaving the field, hand in hand with a tournament official, became one of football's most unforgettable photographs. For many, it marked the end of an era and added yet another chapter to an already extraordinary and deeply complicated story. But focusing only on controversy tells only half the story. Because Argentina has also produced some of the most extraordinary football the world has ever seen. Kempes, Maradona, Di Stefano, Batistuta, Riquelme, Messi. Generations of players admired across the world. Players who won matches with brilliance, not with conspiracy. Many historians argue that reducing Argentina's success to controversy ignores decades of exceptional talent, tactical intelligence, and a competitive mentality that has never accepted defeat. Because both things can exist at once, greatness and controversy. They have existed together in Argentine football for almost 50 years. Football doesn't remember only victories. It remembers the stories that refuse to disappear. And no World Cup story has generated more questions than Argentina's. Whether those questions will ever be answered may no longer matter. Because every generation discovers them again, and every World Cup keeps the debate alive. If you enjoy extraordinary football stories like this, subscribe to Noxfield. The stories behind the game.